All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating and highly detailed briefing document from August 2026. Now, right off the bat, I want to say this isn't your standard sci-fi doom and gloom scenario, and it's definitely not some blind utopian promise either. What we're actually going to look at are the true macroeconomic, structural, and frankly, existential realities of AI over the next decade. Let's get right into it. So I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine a massive top-tier corporate law firm right now. Maybe it's in London, maybe Warsaw. It's August 2026. You're walking down these plush mahogany hallways, and the corner offices, they're completely full. You've got senior partners sitting there, billing out at $2,000 an hour. The firm is honestly wildly profitable. But then you turn the corner to the associate wing. You know, the rows of glass cubicles where the 24-year-olds usually sit just grinding through endless boxes of discovery documents and boilerplate contracts. Well, it's eerily quiet. It's literally a ghost town. The desks aren't completely empty, but the sheer volume of junior staff is just a fraction of what it was even a decade ago.
And that right there presents the immediate glaring structural mystery of our era. Think about it. If the firm isn't bringing in those junior associates to do the grunt work today, if we basically just sever the entire apprenticeship pipeline by automating entry-level knowledge work, how exactly do we create the experienced leaders of the future? Where do the senior partners of 2036 actually come from? Well, this phenomenon is what's known as the broken bottom rung, and I gotta tell you, it is the defining economic footprint of the generative AI era so far.
To really figure out what this means for the future, we're going to structure our investigation today across 6 key areas. We'll start with the broken bottom rung, move into the great AI divide, lay out 4 scenarios for 2036, examine the Central European crucible, map out a human survival guide, and wrap up with the deep utopia dilemma.
All right, let's jump right into section 1, the broken bottom rung and the silent erosion of the apprenticeship pipeline.
Now, what's really wild is this staggering data point right here. When we look at specific metrics, things like the Anthropic Labor Index or the ADP-based Canary series, we're seeing a massive 14% drop in hiring for 22 to 25-year-old junior knowledge workers. We're talking about entry-level paralegals, junior financial analysts, copywriters, basic code testers. And why? Well, because firms are finding it perfectly rational to just replace them with cheap, highly capable generative AI. I mean, generative AI is absolutely perfect at executing those codified, supervised, high-volume tasks for literally a fraction of a cent per hour. But here's the catch. While freezing junior hiring makes perfect short-term microeconomic sense for one single firm, zooming out, it creates a macroeconomic catastrophe over time. We are quietly but very quickly hollowing out the cognitive middle class. Which brings us perfectly to section 2, the great AI divide, looking at maximalists, skeptics, and the J-curve. So to really understand where this is all heading, we have to look at the deeply fractured expert consensus on what AI actually is right now. It's a fierce intellectual battleground. On one side, you have the maximalists. These are your frontier CEOs who genuinely believe AI is a cognitive force multiplier. They think it's going to cure massive diseases in a data center, basically compressing a whole century of scientific progress into a single decade. But then, on the flip side, you have the skeptics. These researchers argue that current large language models completely lack causal reasoning or persistent world models. To them, it's really just sophisticated, fluid mimicry that's about to hit a massive wall of diminishing returns. But honestly, regardless to which camp is actually right, our current economic reality is best explained by this concept, the diffusion gap. This is a roughly 3x gap between what frontier AI models can plausibly execute in a vacuum and what they're actually being utilized for within corporate workflows. It's kind of like, imagine bolting incredibly fast AI technology onto old, clunky legacy workflows. It's literally like connecting a fax machine to a fiber optic cable. The raw bandwidth is there, sure, but the endpoint infrastructure, the legal liability frameworks, the legacy enterprise systems, they're just completely incapable of actually utilizing it. And as this diffusion gap persists and these systems get more complex, we face this genuinely terrifying threat of gradual disempowerment. Imagine you're a logistics manager, right? The AI tells you to reroute ships based on billions of data points you couldn't possibly process on your own. If you overwrite it and fail, you're fired. So over time, the human cognitive contribution just drops to zero. We end up voluntarily ceding our authority to algorithmic systems, and we basically just stick around to be, as this quote perfectly captures, a biological entity for the corporation to fire or for regulators to fine if things go wrong. A true liability sponge. Yikes.
Okay, let's pivot a bit and dive into section 3. 4 scenarios for 2036, mapping the divergence of the next decade. The briefing actually pressure tests our resilience against 4 distinct, probabilistically weighted futures for 2036. First up, we've got the long grind, sitting at a 40% probability. This is where institutional friction keeps productivity gains low, but that broken bottom rung we talked about creates this chronic career stagnation. Next is compressed transformation at 25%. This gets triggered if AI agents hit near-perfect reliability on multi-day tasks, leading to explosive growth, but also rapid, overwhelming labor displacement. Then there's concentration, also at 25%, where physical bottlenecks create massive AI monopolies. And finally, discontinuity at 10%. This is a paradigm-breaking event. Think a synthetic biology incident or a sudden fusion power breakthrough that makes all of our current 2026 strategic planning entirely obsolete. Looking at this really forces you to ask the tough question: which of your core commitments fail catastrophically in more than one of these futures?
Now, what's really wild to me about this is the sheer physical limitation driving that 25% concentration scenario. We aren't just bound by software here. We are literally bound by physics. Training the next generation of dense AI models requires massive, gigawatt-scale data centers. You need stable baseload power, which often means nuclear or massive hydroelectric capacity, and those come with interconnection waitlists of 5 to 7 years. So the cloud is very much tied to the ground, which naturally trends this whole technology toward intense centralization among just a few tech monopolies and nation-states.
Let's move on and test these macro theories in a real-world setting with Section 4, the Central European Crucible, and the collision of cognitive and physical automation. So, right now, Central and Eastern Europe is caught in this brutal structural pincer movement. On one side, you've got their massively successful white-collar business process outsourcing hubs in places like Poland and Romania, facing immediate disruption simply because generative AI drives the marginal cost of rules-driven cognitive labor basically to zero. But then, on the other side, heavy automotive manufacturing hubs, like in Slovakia, are being disrupted by simple EV drivetrains and advanced robotics. Yet, and here's the crazy irony, because this region is facing severe demographic decline, automation isn't just a job killer, it's literally their mathematical savior just to maintain economic survival. Add in the geopolitical reality of a nearby war, rapidly accelerating indigenous defense tech and autonomous drone swarms, and you've got a region that is radically accelerating its technology adoption curve just to survive. Okay, let's abruptly pivot from institutional economics to exactly what you need to do, with Section 5, the Human Survival Guide, translating macro theory into actionable strategy.
This brings us to the new individual mandate. First things first, if you can write a step-by-step manual on how to do your job, an AI is going to automate it, period. So you absolutely must ruthlessly audit your daily workflow and shift your skills toward high-ambiguity, unwritten professional judgment. You kind of have to transition your whole identity from being a content creator to being a legal and intellectual validator. As AI agents do more of the actual generating, the highest value human in the room is the one legally permitted and intellectually capable of taking accountability. Your unautomatable premium becomes your willingness to stand before a board or a judge and legally stand behind the machine's output. And for organizations, there is an immediate, absolute urgency to change your operating and pricing models. You have to stop just bolting AI software licenses onto legacy enterprise workflows. It's like slapping an electric motor on an old steam engine. Instead, redesign your operations entirely around the assumption of near-zero cost cognition. And crucially, listen to this, if you charge by the hour, like a law firm or an ad agency, and an AI agent completes a 10-hour research task in 12 seconds, your revenue model just completely evaporated. You have to immediately abandon the billable hour in favor of value-based pricing, charging for the actual outcome and the risk you're mitigating. To navigate the messy middle of this next decade, you're going to want to keep your eyes firmly fixed on these 5 early warning indicators. Watch to see if autonomous AI agents hit 95% reliability on multi-day tasks. If they do, we shift straight into that compressed transformation scenario. Keep an eye out for a spike in structural mid-career white-collar unemployment. If that happens, watch for massive regulatory backlash. Also, track if AI successfully automates its own R&D, because if so, we're hurtling right toward discontinuity. Tracking these dials signals exactly which of the 2036 scenarios is becoming our day-to-day reality. Finally, let's move to the most profound concept from the briefing in Section 6, the deep utopia dilemma, navigating a fully solved world. I want to leave you today with this staggering philosophical paradigm shift to just ponder. Let's imagine we dodge all the negative scenarios.
AI perfectly cures disease, it solves the energy crisis, and seamlessly handles all physical and cognitive labor. If we actually build the perfect post-scarcity machine that permanently retires the struggle for human survival, what exactly is a human life for? In a fully solved world, what is the mechanic of human purpose? Preparing for the AI transition isn't just about saving your job anymore. It's about fundamentally redefining your purpose in a world where the map of human necessity has been entirely erased. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the consensus, stay curious, and remember to keep an eye on those warning dials.